Hi there. This is Danny Hammond coming to you from a art museum in Paris, France. No, it's a lie. I just think I have boring stuff on here because can't stop and figure out how you're supposed to do it. So I've got some people that may be doing that, but I don't have not ever um, made any money at this, and so I don't have any more money to throw at it until I find a new way to do it. I mean, I'm really to the point that I've been doing it for 15 years and I now can see everything I didn't see in 2012. I knew it, but I couldn't see it. And so I think there's another way to do it. I can't do one on one anymore. It's just too expensive, too slow. I can't help enough people, and I hate it. And um, I'm a real estate developer. That's what I've been forever. Um, and what happened was, I same thing happened to all you guys, and you're waiting to see what I'm going to do next. And I'm ready to do it. I am now. We are beginning. There's some things that I still have to do, some legal work, but it's mostly done. And I need to tell you that what I want to do. I have worked with every kind of person. I've never worked with anyone that wasn't pretty smart. But what what the problem is that what's happening to you and to me, um, was happening to me, is that we're trying to do this the way that we imagined it, having some of us watch Perry Mason, some of us, there's a few alive, and all the way up to Boston Legal or whatever it is you watch. And we're trying to do that, and that won't work. I've been saying that, I'm pretty much, I would consider myself an expert at the Constitution, for one thing. And I have testified in federal and state court as a mortgage document expert. And even all of that, this is still simpler. It was always simpler. And um, I did figure out that it was simpler, but I didn't, there was no one else to talk to, what are you supposed to do when it's not about law, it's about crime? It makes me wish I'd had a minor in crime. My major was staying out of Vietnam for 30 more days at a time every 30 days. But a minor in crime would have been very helpful with all this. It wouldn't have taken me 14 or 15 years. So here we go. I don't want to work with anyone that it can't concentrate on what it really takes to win. And what it does not take to win are these um, exotic theories. When I was born, there was some money that came out with me, and um, the government took it and put it in an account somewhere, but it really belongs to me. If I told that to my dad, he would say, "You didn't have any money when you showed up. If you did, I would have gotten it and I'd have taken care of you with it." I don't want to talk about fraud. We know it's fraud, but the problem is that we are trying to prove the fraud. That's not how it works. There's a burden of proof by all the parties. So, each one's got to do something. And the burden of the borrower who believes that they are um, being defrauded, and they are. I'm not saying they're not, but they're being defrauded, and it's because the let's just say I say foreclosing party, and that's going to be part of what we talk about. But the foreclosing party, whoever it is, has the burden of proof to prove there isn't fraud. The borrower, the only burden of proof of the borrower is to say, I never was in default with that guy or any of the other guys, the characters, the cast members. It's like being at Disneyland, being in one of these cases, like uh, when you go to Disney or Disney World, when you're talking, Mickey Mouse comes up and shake your hand. That's not Mickey Mouse, and that's not U.S. Bank either, and nor is it Deutsche Bank National Trust Company. And I could go on for hours of who it wasn't. So our burden is to say I was never in default with these people, and you'll be telling the truth because it's every time. It's every time. You don't know who your lender is, and the lender that was on your note, if you ever saw your note again, which I don't think you have, um, you may have seen a copy. It may even have your signature on it, and it may have some other signatures on it, and it was probably done, uh, but it's gone now. We don't have to worry about the note. We don't care about the note because we don't have to. The framers of the Constitution set this up a whole different way. What they wanted was for the uh, society to not become litigious. They didn't want everybody suing everybody for some frivolous, you've heard of frivolous lawsuits, for some frivolous reason. And so they put a barrier to that. And the barrier is standing. And we don't have to worry about standing. We have standing to be a defendant getting rolled over by con men because we have the deed. After that, we just shut up on that subject. Because what they want to do is just to keep twirling it and twirling it and twirling it and never answer the question. The number one thing that you're going to see is they're going to do a motion. It won't even be a motion. They're just going to say that you don't have any right to to try to argue this because you failed to state a claim for which relief can be given. They'll do it over and over. They will never say that they have the right to foreclose. Well, they may say that we may have the right to foreclose. There's no such thing as the right to foreclose. There's only the right to collect money, and it's only money that you gave someone as a loan, and they promised to pay you back in writing. Um, Foreclosure, even though some courts have said, "Oh no, foreclosure is not an act of collection," it is. It absolutely is. Framers didn't say it any other way. So standing is the basis for everything, and that's how we're going to face this. And what we're going to do is that we're going to force them to have to write down that they've suffered an injury, and an injury in court could be anything. It could be a broken leg, that's an injury, but also if you gave someone money and they promised to pay it back in writing and they didn't, your injury is you're out your money and they won't give it back to you. That's an injury. That's the one they have to prove. You don't have to prove that you didn't do it. I mean, that's how would you know? You were watching TV, you might have been on vacation, suddenly you get a letter, we're going to foreclose on you. And it's not anybody you ever heard of. It isn't. Sometimes it might be where you went, but all of you and all of me, um, our loans are put together by brokers. The money came from Wall Street and it didn't come from a bank. And if it did, it never made its way before my eyes. I've never seen it. So I'm going to call them workshops. And that way I can teach exactly how to create a lawsuit, probably called a complaint, even in state or federal, always in federal. My state, Missouri, here where the Art Institute is, in Missouri, we have we call it a petition. It's a lawsuit, and we'll shorten that sometimes, said, but the difficult thing is when we're talking about non-judicial foreclosure and judicial foreclosure. In non-judicial foreclosure, and this is why 30 million people have been fraudulently foreclosed is that in non-judicial foreclosure, the burden you have is that you do have to sue them. You have to sue them for taking your house and 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 going through an unlawful detainer, maybe being evicted. I don't have that happen all the time, but I mean, eventually it's where it used to lead, and I am on a tear, but I'm doing the same thing over and over. Um, but what I'm doing is I am not pursuing what they say I did. That's their burden. But they can't even get into court. They can't even take you to court until they have provided um, the information that says that they have suffered an injury. And they have to have included this at the beginning, the first time they wrote anything. Now, the first time they file something in a judicial foreclosure is the lawsuit against you. And that's easy to understand. That's how it was when the founding fathers um, wrote it. There wasn't any such thing as a non-judicial foreclosure. By the way, it took me kind of forever to figure it out. That started during the Great Depression. Well, that makes sense, except for one thing. It doesn't make sense that later on they didn't quit doing it. And we won't get into that right now. I'm going to try to do this faster because I'm going to do something every day and tell you where we're going and what we're doing. Um, I've kind of finished up the most complicated thing I've ever done, although all of it was simple. And my goal is to unsettle the judge and to make him as uncomfortable as you are, because none of this could have happened unless someone facilitated it. You can't bring the claims that these guys use over and over. Almost all of you, maybe all of you, and you may not know it yet, and that's the first thing we're going to talk about, is that you may need to gather up some stuff and start it right now. And we'll talk about what it is. But one of them is you need to go to your recorder's office, even if you've been there in the last year. You need to go now and find every assignment of your mortgage, if it's a judicial foreclosure, or if it's a deed of trust, if you're in non-judicial foreclosure, but it's exactly the same thing and it doesn't exist. You cannot assign a mortgage. You cannot assign a deed of trust. And if that's all they got, they can't get into the court in order to sue you and have a case go on. The judges that allowed cases to go on were at war with the Constitution, which is treason. And that's going to sound exotic, except that's exactly what it is. It's also interference with interstate commerce. We're not going to talk about that right now. It doesn't matter to us. All we care about is, have they established that they can go into the court? Standing is the base of all civil litigation, contract law. The note, the promissory note, is a contract. The assignment of the security instrument is, which we should say, a mortgage and a deed of trust are both a security instrument. The assignment of that is a nullity. Nullity means it didn't do anything. It has no effect. You can't assign it. It's with the note. It goes with the note. It always goes with the note, but they don't have a note. So all they could think of is to somehow get a judge to do the wrong thing. I don't know what that would be. I bet you can guess. But only the person that was in charge of everything is the judge, everything that happens. And I've now got it where I really believe that we're in a pretty good environment right now with Trump, trying to become a dictator, and with think about it. Think about all the people that do everything he says, no matter what he says, and they say it over and over, no matter how stupid it is. And it's almost never not stupid. It's always stupid. Why would people keep saying the same stupid thing over and over, no matter what. Money for money. Someone found their number. Elon Musk gave Trump $270 million for his uh, presidential election campaign. 270 million. There are 100 senators in the Senate and 400 and something, I can't remember right now, uh, representatives in the House. But let's just do the Senate. If you gave everyone in the Senate $1 million, that's $100 million. If somebody did that and they had 270 million, they would still have 170 million. Except it'd be better than that because there are some people that you can't bribe. Oh, did I say bribe? Um, you only have to bribe. Oh, did I say it again? 60% of them, because that even gets you past a presidential veto. Although Trump thinks he's going to live forever, I don't know if you've seen him lately. I don't think he's going to make it past October. And then we'll still have 2 decades to make this up again because what's happened is none of us believe in our country anymore. We don't believe in the Supreme Court. They took bribes. All my life, I thought they lived on a cloud and they sang with angels. And I've been bitterly disappointed that I was going to paint that someday. Um, and so why would you endanger your country? Here's what I don't understand. Once the dictator has all the money, the money he gave you is worthless. You know, you're not going to buy anything with that money. It's his money. That's what our country is based on, is not letting the king own all the land. And that's what's happening now. BlackRock's helping, these billionaires, Russell Vought, if you don't know him, look it up. Look at the Project 2025. Have you read it? So anyway, let's talk about standing. You have to have standing to sue someone. We have a right, Rule 17A, which is one of your civil rights, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Every American has the right to be sued only by someone who has proven already that they have the right to sue you. Standing is a threshold question. That means just like the bride and the groom arrive home or to their house and they get there, he opens the door, he picks up the bride and carries her across the threshold and begins the marriage. That's corny compared to idiocy, okay? The thing that I'm saying is that unless you have proven beyond the doubt, not beyond reasonable doubt, by the way, the burden of concrete and particularized evidence, which is what they have to use, the difference in those is that concrete and particularized evidence is a much harder burden to overcome. And it was all written that way. They wanted it to be hard to take someone to court. You had to have a good controversy. In fact, standing is defined in the constitutional doctrine of cases and controversies. A judge has to have a genuine controversy, and he does not decide that. It isn't up to him to decide the court's subject matter jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction really just kind of follows the fact that there was no standing. Without standing, there's no such thing as subject matter jurisdiction. So if they don't claim they have an injury, and along with that, they don't provide any evidence, but they don't claim they have an injury, they're not going to provide they have the evidence. And it's not just the evidence that they have an injury. They also have to prove with that same burden that the causation of their injury is us, the borrowers. And I've never seen them write it down. I've never seen it. I haven't don't just have my cases. That's a couple of hundred. I've looked at a couple of thousand, and you know, I've heard about a gazillion more, if gazillion's a number, 30 million people is one of the estimates. I've seen as low as 20, so we could go 25, or we could say it's 100 million. It's a lot of people, and all of us together could. And that's why I want to do with all the two reasons. Two reasons we should all do it together is that I taught Zoom classes, real estate Zoom classes, and IRA, self-directed IRAs, and how to use that as money to invest instead of letting some stockbroker, you um, churn your IRA, I'm sorry, your 401k. If I had a 401k right now, I wouldn't have a 401k. It would be in an IRA, it'd be a self-directed IRA, and I'd find some smart guys to tell me, actually, real estate would probably still has always been the best investment. I think it probably still is, but you have to be a lot more careful today because of the chaos. I don't know that you want to do anything right now. So here's how I see it. I think I'm going to use templates they're going to be really from actual stuff that I've done this year, because that's when things changed. And what changed mostly is that I just went brutal, you know, not polite at all, and fast. Shock them. They don't see it coming. They don't see it coming. And if they do, and they've not done anything wrong yet, why would they do it now? So it's speed, speed, speed. And I don't want to talk about peripheral issues, and um, I don't care about the note. I don't care if you got a forensic audit. All you're doing there, that's a confession that you believe there was a note. And I'm saying there's no case. The case is void, and void means it never was. It wasn't before, it isn't now, it never will be in the future. Now, it gets complicated when you say non-judicial foreclosure, because you don't, we're trying to dismiss a case, but you don't want to dismiss your own case, and you had to sue them. So you're suing them, but you're the plaintiff, but that's analogous in your lawsuit, analogous to the defendant in your wrongful foreclosure under cover of darkness. So one of the first things I'm going to say, I think we're going to separate it into classes, unless somebody just doesn't wants to do both. That'd probably be fine. But if you've got a non-judicial closure, I don't want to confuse you with a judicial foreclosure. And if you're in a judicial foreclosure, I don't want to actually bore you or confuse you with non-judicial foreclosure um, issues. And actually, once the foreclosures happened, they're the same. To me, they're the same. I treat them now exactly as if they're exactly the same thing. So what I'm doing now is I've already begun. I'm almost finished creating templates, and we're going to do this in two steps. You don't have to do the second. The first one is that I'm going to send you templates, and you're going to fill in the things that we need to know. You should know, not that they'll, just because I said it's all pretty simple, but it's not simple, because they're going to fight us every step of the way, and they're going to do everything they can to stay out of trouble. Now, my problem was with federal judges, and it's $4 million worth of property. 3 million of it, I paid cash for. My wife and I paid cash. We built fourplexes, sold them, and we were doing well, working for a bigger development company out of Florida, and they kept us real busy. We were making money, and we were building, and we just put the money back. Ended up building 14 very nice condo units, and didn't owe any money. We paid for the construction. We didn't get a construction loan. We just paid for it. When we were done, we just owed it. And then um, Deutsche Bank, and my wife did a lot of great work. I was in a cancer center for 13 months, and anyway, it was Deutsche, and it had been Bank of America for a while. Then out of nowhere, Fannie Mae, which at that time you could not sue Fannie Mae. And so they didn't care if you proved that they were crooks. They didn't care. I don't know what it is today, but I know this. There's 4 cases in the last few years that um, have have determined that Fannie Mae never had this state actor protection where you couldn't even sue them. So I'm in a hurry to get to mine. And so if nobody joins this thing that we're doing now, then that's what I'm going to do. It won't make me sad, but I tried a long time to help, and now I think I've got it figured out. I think we ought to try to do it. I went to the YouTube channel, and I don't think that teaches as well as the website where it's written, but that didn't seem to work as well as I thought it was all along. And I get a lot of compliments. People say very nice things and thanks a lot. I learned a lot, and but they're not learning what I'm trying to teach. So we're going to actually do the lawsuit, and we're going to do it with between 10 and 1,000 people at a time, whoever wants to do it. Um, and when we're done, you know, we may have to shape it up. I mean, maybe I do shape it up, but I'm not going to write the whole thing and just have you dump your house in my hands. I can't take that stress anymore. Um, I don't know why there's not more people doing this for the right reasons. I've looked on the internet. You guys have looked on the internet, and I haven't seen a good, honest approach to this. You can't just do a template and send it to someone. And yet, in a way, you know, if people they don't know it, they're scared, and they've got a job, so they go to their job, and they leave me with protecting their home that their kids live in. It, that's it's okay. I don't think that's any way to do it. What I want to do is to put together, you know, 10 to 50 of them at a time. And so we're going to call that part one. And we can start that anytime. I've got just a few things to finish up, but I don't want any more than 10 right at the beginning. And that doesn't mean that a week later we won't go, okay, we can do more. I just don't want it to make a big mess, have people send money. I got to send it back or we make a big mess out of it. I want to know that I can get under control because I don't have any employees right now. You know, I can't lose my house. I have still property. I've got some wealth, but I don't have cash and I don't have a staff. And I just now believe that we can make money. And that's Google bought YouTube, and Google knows how to make money. And I saw that. And so we're going, I've tried GoFundMe. You can't do that. We aren't a sympathetic bunch. People don't feel sorry for us. They think we're trying to get a house for free. That's not as true today, but I'm telling you, in 2012, I wouldn't have even said I wanted a jury trial. Give me the judge. Of course, I didn't know the judges were crooks yet, but I sure knew that half the population was mad at us because they paid for their house. Well, I don't think any of you, I'm not going to get you out of your loan. You'll still owe it, but the fact that we can't change is you're never going to find who you do owe. It's not going to happen. We can't find them. They can't find them. They don't want to find them, because they've sold yours 4 times and AIG paid your mortgage insurance off. Your house has been paid for 3 or 4 times. But it didn't change the perception, so we can't go there. But we can make our own money with ads, and that is by growing and doing it again and again. But right now, I asked, and one of the rules is going to be that you have to subscribe to the channel and do some likes. And you're going to have to be able to show me that because those are free. It's free to subscribe. It's free to like it. And we are now, and we did this in just a few months. We are to the point where we can start being paid for ads. And it won't be any real money at first, but if we keep doing it and telling other people and growing it, we can even help people that have just as big, as much of a right to have relief from this, but they spend all their money on attorneys, 1,700, 2,000 a month. And there's someone reading this or not, or there may not be anybody watching this. Uh, but, um, you know, there's somebody, that did spend their money on attorneys who literally did nothing. But I think it's worse than that today. The things we have to look out for today is that I'm going to ask you to tell me who you think and this is in the class, not now. You should be thinking about it. Who is your foreclosing party and why do you believe that's who it is? Because I'm not finding the foreclosing party. I'm finding the successor trustee or the deputy sheriff, depending on which, judicial or non-judicial. There's a sale. They make a trustee's deed or a foreclosure deed or whatever it's called in your state, and it's called those two and a lot more. Ours is called a trustee's deed or successor trustee's deed. Why are they successor trustee? Boy, is that a long story. And if you don't know it, you haven't watched my videos and you haven't read my articles. So, who's your foreclosing party? Why do you think that? Because lately they're not even showing up, and who's covering for them is going to be this foreclosure sale. They're going to try not to tell you who's foreclosing because I'll tear that up. As soon as I know who it is, then we know what to do. Because I said someone has to say they've suffered an injury in fact, and only one person, one party, one entity can say that. And that's the one who's going to be foreclosing. They're not the one that necessarily has the right to do it. It won't be that. But if you've got a bunch of characters, they're giving us more characters for the play. The stage is starting to fill up with characters, and we have to sort through them, but we're only looking for one. And you guys are wanting to sue 5 or 8. I know that because I did. I sued 38 on the last time I did my house. In federal court, I sued a judge. I didn't do it right, but I was so close. I will get it now. And so that's one of the things. Who's your foreclosing party? Have you gone to see what's recorded at your county recorder's office? Because I'm going to want you to fill that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the actual paragraphs that I've used, a caption that you're going to, the caption is where it says federal court, the Western District of Missouri um, District Court. And then it says plaintiffs, and I've had anywhere from me to dozens, had 38 defendants. We won't do that again. But someone I think is going to be a defendant is who conducted that sale. I've gone to a lot of sales, but I bet not a fourth of you. Well, it's going to be much less. Went to your own sale. It's humiliating. It shouldn't be, but it is, and I know it is. But we need to know who all has been assigned something because that sometimes is like going to be a U.S. bank, a Boney Bank in New York, Bank of New York Mellon. We're getting people that we used to have, then they went away for a while. Deutsche Bank National Trust Company is who I'm talking about. And your servicer, I mean, none of the services are servicers. And what I'm seeing, there's one that's on almost everything I've seen lately, and it's New Res. Then it's New Res and Shell Point, as if it's two people. That's not true. That company is formerly known as Specialized Loan Servicing and formerly known as SLS and now known as New Res LLC and now known as New Res LLC doing business as Shell Point. In other words, those 4 names, it's the same person, it's the same entity, and try to get an appointment to go to their office and talk to them because you won't find them. The reason they change names is that they do get beat sometimes. I've been beating them. I've been beating them like a drum. I never believed that I would do that. I'm as stunned as anybody. This isn't a brag, but I will tell you this, that I also worked at it a long time. And I suffered a lot, doing it. and I do know what they're doing, and I know what I'm looking for. So anyway, we may divide into judicial or non-judicial. I'd like for you to tell me that, what you think about that. I have 295 um, right now, 295 applications, or the detailed form I call it, because I used to just say, "What do you want?" Now I say, "Tell me all this before I even talk to you," because this will go on forever, and it does. Uh, if you start from scratch and you're trying to tell me something and you're nervous, and we're on the phone, and you want to tell me everyone that did anything wrong or hurt you, I need to have something to start from. So that's why I have you fill out the detailed form. What I would say is do that again, and we'll send it to you. We've got the list. We're going to send it to everybody, and we found the old one, and we're going to let you know. Some people may have already lost their house. I can't keep up this way. I can do two or three at a time, and I've got the last one I'm finishing. I've been on for 13 months, and by the way, it used to be 6 years. I keep people in their house for 6 years, and they thought that was a win. But they still would have to move eventually. You know, it just didn't work. Now we never start. We're going to try to see to it the case never starts. If your judge has already done something wrong, then we're really going to speed up, and we're going to pound on that judge, and we're going to pound on him right now. And if another judge comes in after him and tries to save him, that judge too. You talk about federal court. It sounds really scary. It's $405. It costs $405. It costs more than that to do in most states in state court. State court judges are worse. They were elected like prom queens. So that's why I started calling them. Once I thought about that, I thought that's funny. Now, federal judges, that's completely different. They have worked harder and longer to get where they are. They were appointed by the President of the United States, a President of the United States. They have a job for life. They can't be fired. The only way that they can lose, the only way they can be sued by a party is if they deprive you of your civil rights. So this is about cases and controversies, the doctrine of cases and controversies, about standing, subject matter jurisdiction, um, um, and deprivation of civil rights. And so, the Constitution, that's what's left. That's what we're going to use, and we're going to avoid state court judges all we can. You know, um, and you're going to have to be ready. But we're going to talk about it as we go. I think we'll be doing like maybe 2 to 3 classes a week for the first month. That's $700. That's way lower than an attorney. And what you will have when you're done with that, if unless I just I can't teach it somehow, you're going to have a lawsuit, a complaint. And I don't, if you're happy with that and you think you know what you're doing, then you don't have to do the second part. You don't have to pay more money, and I don't care. And if you decide later that you're over your head and you want to come back and do the second part, you can do that. You know, I, I just hope this breaks even. The reason there's a second one. In the first one, you're going to get your complaint, and you can go file it, and that will stall it until we can get you through the second part. But what's going to happen is that if you sue them, then they have to answer, and their answer takes a while. You'll have at least another month, and you've got to be able to answer the answer. I mean, you've got to be able to, well, when they give an answer, as an example, a case that the last case we're doing, um, was in state court, and the judge had done nothing wrong. And so, very bluntly, their complaint that I certainly helped a great deal on, um, was all Constitution, deprivation of civil rights, the supremacy clause. No state law supersedes federal law ever, never, not one time. The Constitution, constitutional law, federal law is supreme. And there are, in New Jersey, I'd say there's zero judges that don't believe that New Jersey law um, is more powerful in every case than state law. Well, this is actually in Missouri, and I don't have hardly any here anymore. I don't do any anymore. I mean, I'm pretty much done. I want to do this. I want to help a whole bunch of people at the same time and have some, time to do, what I've set out to do. I ended up getting old while I was doing this. I didn't intend to. I was like, you know, 39 about, 18 months ago, and then I was 73. Um, so I've got to get on with my life too, and I haven't been able to. But let's get back to so what this judge, he waited. He even took it under review. I thought, this guy's reading it. Maybe this guy's not going to give us. But I went ahead and wrote the federal lawsuit anyway because I had a feeling and I was right. He just all of a sudden ruled um, and tried to get my people in Missouri's unlawful detainer, which at for years I thought it was the most unfair thing I've ever seen. But here's the reason why it's not. Standing is a threshold question. So you can't get into unlawful detainer because unless you have proven that you're injured and the causation of your injury is the borrower. Well, that hadn't been done. It was U.S. Bank Trust Company, not in its official. Um, uh, anyway, they go on saying that we're nothing but a trustee. And honestly, a lot of you guys are going to have a REMIC trust, and REMIC is real estate mortgage investment conduit, and we call it a mortgage-backed security. And don't be afraid of those, and don't be afraid of the trustee, because the trustee they can't foreclose. They can't be involved in a foreclosure. That's New York state law, which is really pretty much U.S. law. That's where all the first laws came from, New York. Occasionally there'll be one from somewhere else, but they're the same. They can't be involved in foreclosure. Their job is to collect money from the borrower who's paying for his house and turn around and put it in the bank account of that crazy trust, but it doesn't go into their bank account. The trustee, the only way that one of these REMIC trusts, mortgage-backed security trusts, the only way that they can sue a borrower is if the investors in the mortgage-backed security get together and do it because they have paid money. They have an interest in it. Trustee has no interest in it. And so we're beating them up really bad. So we don't worry about it. We have to know. We have to cancel everyone out. We have to keep canceling, because only one can be the foreclosing party. Now, who's going to help that foreclosing party the most, and the one that we are going to be the quickest to jump on, is the deputy or the sheriff's office, but not the office. You cannot sue a state, but you can sue the employee of a state for depriving you of your civil rights under color of law. That means they have an official job, like the judge. He's got a robe. Then that doesn't save him if he does the wrong thing. And that deputy sheriff, the guy, if no money changed hands, or they had no right to do it, or they don't give you the accounting, the reconciliation of the disbursements of the funds from the sale of your house, and I've never seen them do it. I've said all this stuff for 10 years, 12 years. The thing is, now we have a better way to say it, and we back it up, and we don't try to confuse this by griping about what's inside of a case. What happened to you during your 3 years in the case and the way you were treated mean and the terrible things they didn't happen. We can't talk about the case because we're saying it was void and these people are all criminals because that's the fraud. They didn't have anything. So again, we're going to start out and we're going to go that way. And about half of it, you're not going to have to write because it's the citations, it's the case law, it's the reasons. So, yes, we'll figure out who everybody is. Then we will tell the story, then we'll tell the history, but we're not counting on that. We're counting on the citations. So, what in this case I'm talking about, we were in state court. And when the state court judge all of a sudden just ruled that they had to give the house back to U.S. Bank, back, that was the words. They had to return it to U.S. Bank, who'd never had it. And they were the trustee, but that's all, even in their title, not in, not in an official capacity, but only in our individual capacity. We're the trustee for, and it was the VRMTG Asset Trust, and I knew that was a fake name, I was sure. It turns out that wasn't a fake name. It was the trustee's name, U.S. Bank Trust National Association. That's a fake name. Last used in 2006 or something, and my guy's loans was in 2018. There's no way you can put those together. So anyway, the, I already had the federal case, and remember, I want the judge to be as uncomfortable as my borrowers are, and so I sued him the same afternoon that he ruled that the sheriff needed to give my client's house back to U.S. Bank, which was a trustee and not even the trust, and really not even the people who invested in it, because I've never seen a mortgage-backed security that was good. Usually they're registered, and then 1 year later they're deregistered for not having any investors. So this whole thing is impossible. And how they did it the second time, I don't know. How they did it 5 times, I don't know. How they did it 20 million times, and it's been close to the same way, except now they're not wanting to tell you who the foreclosing party is because it's embarrassing to them. And it's also going to get him, put him in jail. They will never say that they are the foreclosing party. They're never going to say they were injured because that's perjury. What they're doing now is just lying. And lying's not the same as perjury. Perjury is actually when you tell a lie on purpose. If so, anyway, we're going to go do that. We're going to have the complaint put together. We're going to kind of be warning everybody, don't do this. You really don't want to do this, and here's why. And that's what the last third of it is: the citations. That a judge that moves the case forward without subject matter jurisdiction, no, without standing, the judge that moves the case forward without standing has no subject matter jurisdiction and does not take his immunity with him. So they can't be sued by the parties unless they deprive you of civil rights. But the moment that they talk or they have a hearing, once you've challenged standing and you challenge subject matter jurisdiction, and it's that short, we are challenging standing, we're challenging subject matter jurisdiction, that means they've got to prove they have it, and they'll never do it. They can't. I mean, they can't. It's like you can't say you've been to the moon if you haven't been to the moon, because they keep track of who did it. And so, anyway, so the moment that he ruled on it, then he'd done something wrong. He had deprived them of the right of due process, and due process is defined in the 5th and the 14th Amendments. And that means that's exactly what Trump's getting beat up by the district judges. I said that we have an advantage right now. It's the federal district courts that are standing up and saying, no, you can't do it. It's against the law. Now, some of these guys are the same ones that did something wrong, and maybe they're having a come to Jesus moment. I don't know. Or there aren't as many. There, those judges aren't involved. I have three judges I'm going to be suing like immediately, if especially if you guys don't all do, if none of you guys do this, or if 10 people do it, I'll have plenty of time. Okay, so the second part's going to be $500, and with that, we're going to say, okay, send what you got because they're going to have sent you something that scares you, and then we're going to again show you how to do it, and you'll do it as we're talking about it, and then we'll look at it, and if we got to clean it up, we got to clean it up. We'll do, and we'll just see if it works. If it doesn't make any money, it'll be a shame. But as long as you keep clicking, and I don't have dislikes, I don't know why. I get a lot of compliments, and I don't know why. I don't know that they understood it, and that's why I'm doing this. But um, but each of those likes, if you comment, and I am trying, I'm going, I really need to do, I need to just take a lot of time and catch up the comments because those go toward ad revenue too, because people are reading those and there's still ads on the sides. And so YouTube pays, and you can make a lot of money, but it's hard to get there. But we've been doing it and you've been helping me. And we are almost to the point we have to have 1,000 subscribers, and we're like at 890, I think, or something like that. We have to get those. But then, when you really get in, we should start getting into the bigger numbers soon. And there may be enough money to actually lower the cost of these classes because all I want is not to use my money to fund this, which I've been doing for years. And I did it on purpose, and I don't feel bad about it. I think it was the right thing to do, but I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. I've got to work on my stuff. I don't need anyone's money to work on my stuff. I just need to pay, and I have to have a staff of at least two people. I found that even with one that I had for a while, a very short period of time, 3 weeks, that I could go 4 or 5 times faster because I can't. There's some things I'm weak at, and you know, almost anybody can cover. That's not very good about me. Anyway, so we're going to do it immediately. If you want to fill it, if this helps you fill out the detail form again, send it. Um, if you're, if you want to, I don't know, if you're ready to pay, then we're ready to go. We'll set up Zoom meetings immediately. There's got to be at least 10 people. Um, I would think there might be out of 30 million that I'd have 3 or 4 million the first time. I don't know if I can handle that, but I don't see why we couldn't maybe get to 50 at a time or something like that. And that we might be able to reduce the cost. And I have some people to help me so that I can do the things that have been my career for 4 decades. I build houses. I'm a land developer, real estate developer. Have been for a long time. I've been a broker owner, real estate. I've owned a mortgage company from 2004 to 2012 when there just wasn't really a need, for. And I say mortgage company, and that's the wrong name. It should be home loan company because mortgage really isn't the right word either. Everybody says it, but with deeds of trust out there, we should call it the security instrument because that's what it is. It does not, a mortgage or a deed of trust doesn't refer to the loan. The promissory note is the contract, and this is all about contracts, contract law, civil contract law. Um, and so right now I'm going to say is I'm going to now try to organize these notes, and I'm going to be doing something every day, and I'm trying to decide if it should be in the morning or in the evening, probably in the between 10 and 12 in the morning. Um, I'll be telling you where we are, where we're getting, and I've already got a pay. I signed up with Square. I'm right now doing trademark and copyright stuff to protect this because I'm protecting all of us. And if we get enough people, we can become a political force, which is why I'd like to have an association along with this that when you're done, you know, let's keep mouthing off, and because what they can't stand is the light of day. I've always wanted to put the spotlight on them, and we can do that. First, let's save the house. Now, the other thing is you're going to want to talk about damages, and damages should just happen. If you've been in my website, I think I've even done a video on it. If I haven't, I should. I got $2.5 million in punitive damages. I didn't ask for it. It was like the judge was just supposed to do it. It was a state judge, and by the way, I went to college with him, um, and he never saw me, because I'm not an attorney. I don't have to be an attorney. I am a real estate professional, and I can give you all the advice I want. I have no fear of that. I'm not doing anything wrong. I thought I was for a while. I thought that was really brave, that I was right on the edge, and I even said I'd go to prison rather than somebody lose their house. I meant jail, not prison. I think I said prison. Then later I found out that in order for anyone, if you wanted to complain about me acting like an attorney, you've got to complain to the attorney general. Oh, I didn't tell you the most important part. Anyway, you have to complain to the attorney general. And I've never seen an attorney general who, the moment they were elected, weren't trying to run for senator, and they don't care what Danny Hammond's doing out in some court somewhere. But even if they did, it's a fine. If I'm acting like an attorney, I'd say I might be fined for $2,100. Now that didn't make me so brave, but when I said it, I thought it might be prison or jail, and so it was brave. It just wasn't true. Now let's get back to what I started to say. Is that so? We sued the state judge immediately. I mean, within an hour. I just was ready. And we sued him in federal court for deprivation of civil rights for making that ruling. And I didn't just make him uncomfortable, he lost his mind. And he did some cruel, and he got the sheriff in, just like Trump. He got everybody involved. By the way, if you don't like me talking about Trump, I didn't talk about it for a long time. And somebody said you shouldn't be political. This is not about politics. The man is ruining farmer. He's ruining everybody, and he's really not. It's Russell Vought, billionaire, and like five more. And read Project 2025. This is not politics. This is about insurrection. This is about um, an armed militia, ICE, and the FBI, and Department of Justice. You can't. There's nothing about this that's legal, and 120 different rulings against Trump, and they've got to work their way through court, and they do, and he loses. But the Supreme Court is overruling 50% of those, which makes it harder to do. I've got something in my eye. So anyway, I sued him, and he lost his mind, and then the paper started flying back and forth, motions to dismiss. I'm getting ready to do a motion for summary judgment, which I don't see any way to. I don't see how I can lose it. I don't think that's even possible. So it's probably done. But the attorney for the state judge is an employee of the state, and you can't sue the state. But even though that's true, we sue the employee of the state, and you can do that. And the attorney, the defendant, is the judge. And by the way, I don't say names, and people are going to want me to, and I can't tell you the names of my clients, and it's because no client I've ever had will let me tell their names. So you don't need to read it anyway. You think you do, but all the people ever ask me, they want to go read it. They can't read it because they wouldn't be asking me. They'd be asking me why I think I'll win instead of the other people or themselves. Um, and so I don't care if you don't like it. I don't. I won't divulge any of your names or your cases to anyone unless you tell me to or ask me to, or if unless you agree. And I tried it for a while. I couldn't ever get. I'd have 12 families at a time, and I'd say, "Do you want to get together with some of the other clients, for coffee or dinner or something and talk about it?" I thought they would want to. I would have. I did. I do right now. I'm doing it right now. Never. So don't ask. I'm not going to tell. Um, Now, if somebody tells me they want me to, yeah, I'll do it in a second, and we'll give the case number. And let's just see what happens next. But that I'm going to tell you that I rarely get asked that, but I'm starting to get asked that more, and I don't know why. I think people think they can go look at it and figure it out, but not until it's. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, so the attorney general's office is defending this judge, and he insists, and and he has not objected to. You have to object to everything. That's why we lost so much. We all watched too much TV, and we thought that a trial, we thought that the crime, the discovery of the suspect, um, and the trial all took about 43 minutes. That's not how it works. Now my eyes turned up. Somebody squirted me with poison. Um, so there, he's been defended by the attorney general, who's saying that state law, period, supersedes federal law. Okay, I've already invoked the supremacy clause, which says, and I've already said it's a federal question, and they've already challenged standing and subject matter jurisdiction. And this judge or this attorney general, baby attorney general, junior attorney general, has not controverted, has not objected to anything we said, which means the judge has to take everything we said as the truth. How do we lose? I'll tell you more about that later. I got to do something about my eye. So uh, maybe not tomorrow morning, but certainly tomorrow night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if you want to be in the first 10, you'll just have to get in line. You'll have to pay. You'll have to have been subscribed. And I'd rather you clicked on all my videos, not because I think you should like them all, but because I think that we can raise enough money to lower this, and that's really inexpensive. 1,700, and you might, so 1,200, and you might. I mean, we might win it on that. I think that's possible. I have done that in the last 1 year. I've done it several times. But it's when the judge hasn't done the wrong thing and he smells a rat, and then he doesn't do the wrong thing. He just dismisses my people. He just, and that happened, like, it happened too often right at the beginning. This is 15 in a row. Um, and, and, uh, it's what I would do. I mean, even if I've been bribed 1,000 times, if somebody tells me they're going to get me if I do it again, that skip that guy and go to another guy that doesn't know. I mean, I don't know why this judge did it what he did, but he really, uh, there's no chance he's going to be a judge when this is over. He did some really, really horrible things to people. Older people that couldn't take their medicine, but like this has to do with a young woman who has a 3-year-old, has a child, and she also had another baby who died, ashes in an urn. And these deputy sheriffs acted just like ICE. They made her put the urn down and leave the house, and they locked it. That I think we'll get damages, but the thing is, not from a sheriff's deputy, but we do have in this case earlier, banks and people with money, and there's a possibility of it. But I think the house is most important. Let's don't dwell on damages. Those, you know, we can figure out. But first, you have to win or you're not going to get damages. And so the idea is get the high ground. The high ground is your house. So get the house, keep the house. It's best if you keep it because people, once they're out, it's so hard for them to do anything that they just let it go. But a lot. I mean, I'd have had people that we went back and we got the house. So I took too long, and but I know everybody want to know: am I really going to do it, or was this a joke? It's not a joke. I know how to use Zoom. Um, and ask your questions in the comments on, and I'll try to, and I'll go through all of those, and I'll keep doing it. But also to that MTGFRD, which is short for mortgage fraud, .info@gmail.com, and those will be current like tomorrow morning. And if you got questions, we'll try to answer them. And I got to tell you that it's hard to do when it's 295 people at one time. I feel that's one of the reasons I had to make a change. I was letting people down, and they didn't know that couldn't. I just couldn't get to them. I was doing three actual cases all by myself, and I did have help for a very long time. And anyway, so I'm done. None of you guys are there anyway. Now I got to do that thing because I don't have a producer where I go, oh look, a baby wolf, and I'm